I used to have this sticky note on my computer that just said, just say no. And I failed at it miserably every single day. My to-do list was a monster. My calendar was a rainbow of overlapping commitments, and I felt helpless, like I was on a treadmill that someone else kept speeding up. Sound familiar? Here's the painful truth we all ignore. Focus isn't about what you say yes to. That's the easy part. True focus is about what you have the courage to say no to. This was Steve Jobs' ultimate superpower. He once said that saying no to hundreds of projects is what allowed Apple to say yes to the few that truly mattered, like the iPhone. But why is this so damn hard? Because we're wired to please, to seize every opportunity, to fear missing out. We say yes and create that mental overload, that burnout we all know. But what if I told you there's a secret principle Jobs used, a filter for every decision, a principle that turns that chaotic yes into a powerful, intentional no?
Stick around, because in the next part, I'm going to reveal that exact filter. It's going to change how you see your entire to-do list. So, what was that one filter? That secret principle? It's deceptively simple. Jobs famously said, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Let that sink in. It's not about piling things on. It's about cutting away everything that isn't absolutely essential.
Let me give you a perfect example. The original Macintosh. While every other computer company was cramming in every possible feature, every floppy drive standard, every confusing configuration option, Jobs said no. He ruthlessly cut them out. His team fought him. They said users needed those options, but Jobs believed that simplicity was the ultimate sophistication. That no was infuriating to engineers, but it's what made the Macintosh revolutionary. It wasn't a machine for tech geeks. It was a computer for the rest of us. That single, stubborn no defined an entire product category. But here's the twist, the part that most people miss. This philosophy wasn't just for products, it was for his own life. Think about this. In 1985, he was forced out of Apple, the company he founded. He could have spent years fighting, saying yes to a brutal legal and emotional battle. Instead, he said no. He walked away. It must have been the most painful no of his life. But that no freed him to create Next, and later Pixar. That no ultimately set the stage for his triumphant return to Apple. He said no to a battle, to save his energy for the war. Now, I want you to think about something in your own life right now. That project you're half in on, that commitment you're dreading, that good opportunity that's eating your time but doesn't align with your one great goal. What if you had the courage to say no? Saying no isn't about rejection. It's about selection. It's the active, intentional creation of your focus. And this leads us to the most practical part, how to build this muscle. Because it's one thing to understand the philosophy, it's another to actually do it. In the next section, we're going to break down the exact 3-step framework you can use starting today to start saying no like Jobs. This is where it gets really practical.
So why is this so incredibly difficult? If this philosophy is so powerful, why are we still drowning in yes?
Let me be brutally honest with you. A few years ago, I was offered a chance to collaborate on a project. It was a great opportunity with great people. But my gut screamed no. It wasn't aligned with my core focus. You know what I did? I said yes. And for 6 months, I was miserable. I was working nights and weekends, my main work suffered, and I felt that constant grinding stress. I was stuck on a treadmill of my own making. And the reason I said yes wasn't logic. It was pure, primal FOMO, the fear of missing out. What if this was the opportunity? What if they never asked me again? What if I became known as the person who says no? Here's the biological truth we're fighting against. Our brains are wired for yes.
For thousands of years, saying yes to more food, more connections, more opportunities meant survival. Saying no could mean being ostracized from the tribe, a death sentence.
So when you feel that anxiety about refusing, you're fighting 50,000 years of evolutionary programming. That knot in your stomach, that's your lizard brain trying to save you. But here's the modern tragedy. That same wiring is now our biggest liability. In a world of infinite opportunities, notifications, and demands, that yes instinct creates mental overload, chronic stress, and this deep-seated feeling of helplessness. You're not failing at focus because you're lazy. You're failing because you're biologically programmed to collect, to hoard opportunities.
And it gets harder, because when you finally do say no, you face two kinds of friction. External friction, the disappointment in someone's voice, the frustration, the "are you sure?" But the internal friction is far, far worse. The voice in your head that says, "Who are you to say no? You're not Steve Jobs. You should be grateful." That voice is a liar, but it's a persuasive one.
Saying no feels like you're going against your very nature. It feels like you're closing doors. But what if I told you that every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your core focus, you're not closing a door, you're building a wall around your castle. You're defining the boundaries of what you truly care about.
And that brings us to the most important question. How do you rewire this ancient wiring? How do you turn the painful no into a powerful, liberating superpower? In the final section, we're going to build your personal focus filter, a practical, three-step system to make saying no not just easy, but automatic. This is how you take back control.
All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. You understand why this is important. Now let's talk about how. How do you actually start saying no like Jobs? It's a muscle, and we're going to build it together, starting with the most powerful exercise I've ever done. I call it the Ruthless Audit. And I want you to do this with me, right now, in your head.
A few years ago, I was completely overwhelmed. I had my main job, 2 side projects, I was trying to learn a new language, I was on 3 different committees. It was insane. I felt like I was failing at everything. So I did what I'm about to ask you to do. I took a piece of paper and I wrote down every single commitment I had. Every project, every goal, every maybe that was taking up mental space. The list was terrifying. It had 24 items. Then I took a red pen and I applied the Jobs filter. I asked myself, if I could only keep 3 things on this list, which 3 would have the most meaningful impact on my life and my core goals? Not which were the most urgent, not which would make people happiest, which ones truly mattered to my mission. And then I crossed out 21 things. 21! I literally drew a line through them. It felt violent. It felt wrong. My heart was pounding. I was thinking, but I should do that. That person is counting on me. That was the FOMO and the people-pleasing screaming for their lives. But let me tell you what happened in the next 30 days. The 3 projects I kept, they exploded. I made more progress on them than I had in the previous 6 months, because I wasn't just working on them with the leftover energy I had after dealing with the other 21 things. They got all my energy. They became my iPhone, my Macintosh, and the world didn't end. People understood. Opportunities I thought I'd lost actually came back later in better forms. This is exactly what Jobs did constantly. He wasn't just saying a no to random things. He was conducting a strategic, ruthless audit of all possibilities and selecting only the ones that aligned with a singular, visionary goal. So, your mission before the next section is to do this. I'm not kidding. Pause this video. Open your Notes app. I want you to list everything. Then, I want you to be brutal. Cross out 70%. Keep only your top 3. Not 10, 3. This first step is the foundation. It clears the clutter and reveals what truly matters. But once you know your top 3, you face a new problem. How do you handle the new requests that constantly flood in? How do you say no in the moment without feeling guilty? That's exactly what we're tackling next. I'm going to give you a simple, repeatable script, a focus filter that you can use to automatically and gracefully say no to anything that doesn't make your top 3 list. This is where it gets really, really powerful.
So you've done the Ruthless audit. You know your top 3. You feel focused, powerful, in control. And then your phone rings. It's a fantastic new offer, a can't-miss opportunity. And that old instinct, that biological wiring kicks in. Your mouth is already opening to say yes before your brain has even processed it.
This was my biggest leak. I do the audit on Sunday, feel great, and by Tuesday, I'd have said yes to 2 new things that completely derailed my focus. Sound familiar? That's why you need step 2. This is the shield that protects your newly decluttered focus. I call it the 24-hour rule, and it's brutally simple. When any new request, opportunity, or quick favor comes your way, you do not give an answer on the spot. Your default response is, "That sounds interesting. Let me check my commitments and get back to you in 24 hours."
This one rule changed everything for me. Let me give you a real example. I was once approached by a startup to be an advisor. It was flattering. It was in my field. The founder was passionate. My ego was screaming, "Yes, do it!" In the past, I would have agreed on the spot, but I used the rule. I said, "This sounds amazing. Let me sleep on it and I'll circle back tomorrow." And in that 24 hours, the magic happened. The initial dopamine hit and flattery faded. I held the opportunity up against my top 3, and it didn't align with a single one. In fact, it would have actively taken time and energy away from my number 1 priority. The next day, I was able to write a graceful, powerful no that felt confident, not guilty. I wasn't rejecting them, I was affirming my priorities.
This pause, this buffer, is what separates a reactive yes from a strategic no. It gives you the space to move from your emotional, people-pleasing brain to your logical, strategic brain. It's the difference between being a windsock, blown by every opportunity, and being a rudder, steering deliberately towards your goal. Steve Jobs was a master of this. He didn't make snap decisions on products or partnerships. He let them simmer. He allowed the initial excitement to wear off to see if the idea still held weight against his singular vision. So now you have your top 3 and your 24-hour shield. You protected from new invasions. But there's one final crucial skill. How do you actually deliver the no? How do you say it in a way that doesn't burn bridges, that feels strong and respectful, not rude and dismissive?
That's the final piece of the puzzle. In the next section, I'm going to give you the exact 3-sentence script that I use to say no gracefully and powerfully. This script has saved me hundreds of hours and preserved countless relationships. It's the ultimate tool for putting the philosophy into practice. You've done the audit. You're using the 24-hour rule, but there's one last piece, and this is the one that made it all click for me permanently. After my Ruthless audit, I had my 3 priorities on a piece of paper, and I promptly lost it. A week later, I was back to feeling scattered, my no's were getting weaker because my why was getting fuzzy. The priorities were in my notebook, but not in my mind.
Then I read about how Steve Jobs used a simple whiteboard. He'd draw a 2x2 grid, or just write the one thing, the single most important product or feature, and that was it. Everything else was noise. That visual, physical representation of focus was non-negotiable. It was the ultimate filter. So I brought a small whiteboard and put it right next to my desk. At the top, I wrote the top 3, and I listed them. Just 3 words or phrases. That's it. And now, when I look at that board and realize a new request doesn't align, I use my pre-prepared script, the exact 3-sentence one. It goes like this. The first one is, "Thank you so much for thinking of me. This sounds like an exciting project. This shows respect and acknowledges their offer."
Second, based on my current priorities and commitments, I'm unable to take this on right now. This makes it strategic, not personal. You're not saying, I don't want to, you're saying, my system doesn't allow it.
And third, I wish you the best of luck with it, and I hope we can find a way to collaborate in the future. This preserves the relationship and leaves the door open.
That's it. This script is polite, professional, and leaves no room for argument. It turns a difficult conversation into a simple formality. Now, the most important part.
Let me tell you, the first time I had to say no to something with that whiteboard staring at me, it was a completely different experience. I didn't have to dig through my notes or try to remember my priorities. They were right there, in my periphery. I could literally point to it and say, I'm sorry, but I've made a commitment to focus on these 3 things right now, and this doesn't align.
It became my accountability partner. It transformed my priorities from abstract concepts into a physical law of my universe. It was no longer me against someone else's request. It was me and my whiteboard, defending the castle of my focus.
This is the power of visualization. Your brain is incredible at ignoring things that are out of sight. But when your top 3 are literally always in your line of sight, every decision becomes easier. That new feature request? Hold it up to the whiteboard. That invitation to a new project? Look at the whiteboard. It acts as a constant, gentle reminder of your ruthless audit. It's the embodiment of Jobs' philosophy. He didn't just think about focus, he created systems, like that whiteboard, to enforce it. So now you have the complete system. The ruthless audit to find your true north, the 24-hour rule to protect it, and the visual whiteboard to never lose sight of it. So here we are. We started feeling overwhelmed, and we're ending with a system, a shield. We've taken this abstract, intimidating philosophy from Steve Jobs and made it tangible. Look, I still have that whiteboard, and I still use the 24-hour rule. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Every time I say no to something good, I'm saying yes to something great. I'm creating that mental space for the breakthrough ideas. Just like Jobs did at Apple, he didn't create the iPhone by adding more features to the iPod. He did it by saying no to everything else until the one revolutionary device was all that remained. That's the ultimate freedom. It's not just about reducing stress or feeling less helpless. It's about claiming the creative space to do your best work, to build your iPhone. But this journey doesn't end when this video does. The real work starts now. In the comments, I want you to do one simple thing. I want you to type this out. The one thing I need to say no to is... Just writing it down makes it real. It holds you accountable. And you'll be amazed at the support you get from this community. We're all fighting the same battle against the endless yes. Your focus is your most valuable asset. Guard it with your life. If this video helped you do that, then do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content on mastering your productivity and mindset. It truly helps the channel. Now I'll see you in the comments. I can't wait to see what you're choosing to focus on.